Joining me now is Steve Cox. He's a Democrat running for the Senate in Kentucky. So if he wins the primary, that would put him up against Moscow Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell's polling is disastrous. So maybe we're talking to the next senator from Kentucky. Steve, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Cenk.
No problem. So Steve, you're not the only one in this Democratic primary. So let's focus on the distinction between you guys. Look, Mitch McConnell's a bad guy, we all get it. But talk to me about why it should be you rather than someone else in this primary.
Well, I am the only person that is pro Medicare for all. I'm 100% behind that. I'm 100% behind pretty much Bernie's entire platform. I am a pure progressive candidate, something that Mitch has never had to face before. And I'm the only one running that way.
Okay, so that's a good distinction between you and the other candidates. So that makes sense. Steve, what did you do before running for this position?
Well, I have a license as a registered pharmacy technician. I work at Walgreens actually as an assistant store manager, and I also handle, whenever they need me back in the pharmacy, that's where I go.
All right, that makes sense. But okay, so that's very different than politics. Why decide that you're going to run for the Senate?
Well, I mean, when you really look at the people that you're serving, especially if you're in a pharmacy or in any sort of healthcare field, and you see people not getting the care that they need just because they don't have the money, it starts to get to you. Especially, a few years back when the EpiPens, they changed the price. I had to tell a guy, hey, you can't have your prescription if you don't, pay this price, because it jumped up to over $200. And he said, well, without this, I could die. And I had to tell him, I'm sorry, sir, I don't know what to tell you. And, things like that start to really eat at you. And you don't see any progressives running in Kentucky for, the major offices. And, I kind of got tired of waiting for that sort of candidate to run. My dad is a great example of something that really aggravates me about our current system. I didn't know that dentures were something that Medicare doesn't cover. It's something that's considered cosmetic. And so he doesn't really have teeth right now. And if you look at that and you think, are teeth a cosmetic item? That's a ridiculous thing to say. You get old people in Medicaid nursing homes that don't have teeth, and then they put them on a liquid diet, and then they die just from being poor. And that is not the America that I want to live in.
Yeah, I don't think teeth are optional. And so, I mean, oftentimes we have a brutal system. By the way, under Medicare for all, Medicare would actually be improved. So a lot of, not just the Republicans, but of course, corporate Democratic hacks, a lot of them in the presidential campaign, are pretending that it would take away Medicare. No, it would actually soup up Medicare for senior citizens and provide more coverage, including dental and vision.
A lot of times they try to hinge on that argument that it'll take away the private option, but it's not so much that it takes away the private option; it just makes it completely obsolete. Why would you pay for something that we're going to give you because you deserve it? And that's honestly the way it should be.
Yeah, and of course the unspoken part of that, Steve, is that when the Buttigiegs of the world say Medicare for some who I like and can afford it, or whatever the name of his plan is, what they're saying is it's not going to be Medicare for all. You're going to have to pay for it. So we're going to charge you premiums, deductibles, all those things you have under private insurance, and we're just going to call it Medicare, blah, 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 blah. So it's a completely different system.
Yeah, we're already paying for it. And Medicare for all actually runs on about a 4% gradient scale based on your income. And if you look at people that are making $69,000 or less, they're probably only going to be paying 2% of their income, which is going to be less than what they're paying right now in premiums anyway. Yeah. It just pushes more burden onto the rich, which we see they haven't been really taking care of their burden in a while anyway.
Yeah. So Steve, a lot of people will tell you, yes, but it's Kentucky. It's very red, very pro-Trump. So Medicare for all and your other progressive planks will not play in Kentucky. How do you answer that?
Well, I mean, the truth is there's a lot of progressive people in Kentucky. They just don't have anybody to rally behind. over the past 30 years, Mitch McConnell has ran against what I would call Republican light candidates. I mean, if you can get the great value version of a Republican or you can get the actual Republican, you're going to take the actual Republican every time. Why would you get the knockoff from a party you don't like? I mean, you need someone to stand behind that has your actual ideas, not someone that has the other side's ideas that has the right color by their name. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but Schumer, having learned the lesson of Allison Lundgren Grimes, he drove Ashley Judd out of that primary last time McConnell was running. Because why would you want a really well-known celebrity to run? I mean, they have no chance of winning, like Schwarzenegger or Trump, right? Oops.
Yeah.
And the reason he did is Judd's actually a real progressive, and so he hated that. So he decided he was going to go with a Republican light, and she got slaughtered. So this time around, he decides to go with Amy McGrath, who is running as somewhat Republican light.
Well, I mean, there's not really a lot I can say that Amy McGrath hasn't already said about herself, her being pro-Trump, her saying, yes, I would vote for Kavanaugh, no, I wouldn't vote for Kavanaugh. I mean, she's already said everything you need to really hear about her. And the fact that Schumer's already behind her, that's kind of a red flag anyway. And if you really look at it, I mean, the reason McConnell is giving her so much attention is because he knows if she gets that primary, then he can beat her easily, because that's what he's been doing, is beating Republican light for 30 years.
Yeah, they never learn, because it's not about learning. It's not even about winning the seat. It's about getting people who are pro-rich people in those seats. Anyway,
Yeah.
but Steve, Amy McGrath is likely not going to be the only other person in the primary. So there might be other progressives in the primary as well. So convince me that you can win, that you could win against Mitch McConnell.
Unlike other people that may or may not join into the primary, I'm an average person. I've been a Kentuckian all my life. I know what the struggles are here in Kentucky because I've had to live through them. I'm not a perfect, model of what you might call a nuclear family. I've been through divorce. I've had to deal with childcare issues. I've lost a job before. I've had to work minimum wage. And my first job was actually at a Pizza Hut. I mean, I understand what it is to actually be a Kentuckian. And no one else that's going to run is going to understand that, is going to fight for us like I will.
So how would you fight against McConnell? What would be, do you run against him, or how would you conduct your campaign against McConnell in general?
In general, you really just have to point out the corruption. I mean, the whole reason that campaign finance reform is part of my platform is because over the last 30 years, McConnell's been rolling back the laws on that. He's the reason we have dark money. He's the reason the Koch brothers had so much power and influence. He believes that you should be able to use as much money as you want to win an election. And that's what wins elections, is money. If you read his book, he'll say it right to you.
So I know some corporate Democrats are reluctant to call people like Mitch McConnell corrupt for taking corporate money. Is that what you're calling them?
Absolutely. I mean, anytime that you have a business that is trying to put forth some sort of pressure to the government to make a decision that's good for the business, then that's wrong, because business isn't people.
And Steve, what's your campaign plank on campaign finance reform?
Well, I believe we need to get rid of all corporate lobbyists, period. I mean, I understand that there are special groups out there that will lobby for certain ideas. You get certain religious organizations, or you get certain things like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, things like that. That's understandable. That's when people come together to address the issues. But when corporations, when businesses get involved, that's where really things start to go awry. So yeah, the main thing I would like to do is get any sort of corporate lobbying out of Washington, make it illegal completely, and also people that have been in office should not be able to be lobbyists after they're out of office. We can plainly see that it's not working out very well that way.
So Steve, last thing, Trump is still popular in Kentucky, whether we like it or we don't. So how do you talk about Trump in the context of Kentucky? Or how do you convince Trump voters to vote for someone who is obviously not a Trump fan and is significantly on the left?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not extremely concerned with going after Trump voters. I think if I'm honest and genuine, even the people that don't like my ideas are going to like me as a person, as opposed to McConnell. But I don't want to go straight after Trump's base, because that's not the people that I want to wake up and get out to vote. I want to wake up the people that believe in a better America, that actually want to make America great for the right reasons. And you see that with, the current progressive movement, and you see that with, Bernie Sanders, for example. There are people there that want to do the right thing for the right reasons. And there's a lot of them here in Kentucky too. They just haven't had anyone to rally behind.
All right, Steve Cox, well, you got a memorable website, that's for sure, coxforus.com. Is that for us or for US?
It can be either or. It's, it's double entendre.
Okay, indeed. Okay, we'll have the links down below in the description box. Steve Cox, thank you for running, man. I appreciate anybody who's not in politics who goes, well, I can't stand this anymore. And who's gonna help fix it? I am. So that's what you did, and good luck to you, brother. I want to check back in on this race throughout, and so hope to talk to you again soon, Steve.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.